Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest here today. We have Carlos Beruff. He's a self-made entrepreneur, real estate developer who has built over $1 billion in residential and commercial projects across Florida. He's the founder of Medellin Home, and he has served the state in major leadership roles, including the Florida Constitution Revision Commission. Carlos is known for his bold decision making, resilience, and commitment to building both communities and leaders. Carlos, thank you so much for coming on. We're excited to have you on hashtag clocked in. The first question is, you said that everyone gets multiple shots in life. Why do you think so many people fail to recognize these opportunities when they come?
It's twofold. Some of it is just they see the opportunity, but they fear making the jump. And that is at least one of the reasons that I see people highly successful, financially successful people, because to me, define a human being is not defined by their financial success. I mean, there's some wonderful, wonderful fathers and husbands and brothers who don't have huge financial balance sheets at the end of their lives. And then there's others who do. The people that do will typically find an opportunity and they'll look at it and they will commit to it with 100% of their energy, and that there's no way out. So if you miss, you're going to have to fall on the ground, hit your face, and get up and start figuring out all over again. And that's tough.
Absolutely.
That's very tough for people to deal with that kind of risk.
Well, it's a completely different framework than a lot of us are get the job, do the work, and move on. Like it's a completely different mindset. So for you, when did you make that first major risk in your life or take that jump?
When I started the company, I'll tell you the whole story because you can put it in perspective. I'm a 20, at that time I was, let's see, 26 years old. I was working with, I had a partner who built houses. I was the sales and finance guy. And we had bought 22 lots. And I kept my job because I needed the salary to pay my bills and didn't want to strain the company. And I really didn't have to be in the field because my building partner was handling the details, the day to day of building the six houses that we'd sold to two investors, three to each of them. So we start building these houses. We hire a salesperson, nice young man. We put him in the field. Well, 3 months later, he hasn't sold a house yet. Okay. And I'm going, things are beginning to get little pushy there. And then we find out that my building partner, God bless his soul, had made an honest mistake and left out the truss systems in the houses, which we were going to make $12,000 a house. Now we're going to make 6,000 a house because we left the trusses out, which were $6,000. So now things are really bad, and we're running out of room. So I go into the sales office on a Friday, um, and I sit myself down. And there was at that particular time in the world, which was 1984, it was very difficult to get single digit interest rates. And there was a
Okay.
program that was offering 8% interest rates. It was a federal program with bonds or grants or something. And I sold the next six people that walked through the door over a 3-day period, sold them each a house,
Wow.
every one of them. But here's how I did it. I guaranteed them they would get the 8% interest rate because how I did that, now it's first come, first serve, and there was limited amount of funds. So I literally hired people to sleep from Friday to Monday outside the mortgage company's door and feed them pizzas and bring them water and so forth. And then on Monday morning, the person who had actually bought the house shows up and takes their spot in the line. So out of the six houses I sold that weekend, five of them actually got built and closed. But thinking outside the box, I had to find people, pay them to sit in that line from Friday night till Monday morning. Okay. And taking pizza and so forth. They could take breaks so they have to go home and take showers and so forth. And that's how basically I went from almost not being able to pull it off to being able to pull it off. But
I
I was
love
all in.
and that is
Okay.
all it because what people don't realize is we think we always have to do it ourselves, but there's so many times in our life where we can bring in other people, and it truly makes the experience so much better too, because these people appreciate it, you appreciate it, and you just have to understand negotiations.
Yeah, I mean the people that I hired were, appreciative of the ex. I don't remember, so I would no, I wouldn't be telling you the truth. I don't remember what I paid them, but it was enough that they did what they had to do to spend Friday, Saturday, and Sunday sleeping outside. Unfortunately, the area that they had to be that they were waiting in was undercover, and it was a decent time of the year. It was March or April, so the weather was quite pleasant. But still, it's a
That's
commitment to spend 3 nights on a concrete.
also to pull out the people at last minute, being like, I have to find these people, I have to bring them in, I have to lock in these deals. It's not an easy task. And when you're building out houses, you don't think you're going to have to go hire people for that activity.
No, that was so once we got that and we had the backlog, then we started selling and we got a 24-month loan from a bank. He ended up being my banker for 30 years, literally. He lent me $120,000 to buy the 22 lots with a 24-month term, and we paid him off in 10 months.
Oh, wow. That's
So,
incredible.
yeah, it's not too bad. But then you start rolling and you start continuing to do things, and before you know it, in 1986, we're the largest home builder in Manatee County, which didn't say a lot because Manatee County was about this big. So it was it wasn't like a big bragging point. We were just young guys doing some strange stuff. Our architectural stuff was unique. We had purple trim around a house with gray accents, so it was unique. We did the first um, peekaboo shower where we cut a piece of glass in the shower so you could be looking in on your wife when she's taking a shower. Just little things that made us a little different. Uh,
Yeah.
and we got market share and we were successful and that went along pretty well till 2000, no, 1991, 92 is when we got in trouble. I'm old, I'm 67. Okay, so there was a thing called the Resolution Trust Corporation that was set up by the government when the savings and loan crisis occurred in the late 80s, early 90s. And that crushed us. Not always the other thing that I've learned from people who are successful is we take blame for the stupidity of the decisions that we made. Okay.
You got to
And
be fully account you got to be fully accountable for that, and
yeah,
realizing that how do you, how do you keep going? Because that's the hardest part is most people would feel a failure and be like, I'm done. I got to
well,
change up.
well, I'm 32 years old now. Now, fast forward, I'm 32 years old. I got $20 million worth of debt. I have a financial statement that says I'm worth 5 million bucks on paper. And you're stupid, you're young, you're stupid, you're cocky, 12 million of the $20 million was a shopping center that had partners in it. It wasn't all by myself. We had 5 or 6 different partners. And the economy went against us. Again, we did not run the business very smartly. We didn't have capital reserves we should have had. So now banks are coming after us. I'm thinking about bankruptcy, talking to bankruptcy attorneys. But I have one conversation with my father, who I used to talk to 2 or 3 times a week when he was alive. And he said, if you file bankruptcy, I'll never talk to you again. And my father was serious as a heart attack. I go, man, I like talking to my dad, Now I
I got to
am
figure this
convinced,
one out.
I got to figure this out. So I did. We unraveled the $20 million worth of debt. It took us about 4 years, and then I got back on my feet. It was great lessons. I hope everybody learns these kinds of lessons if they have to have them at all in their late 20s or early 30s, because you have the stamina to get back up. And I didn't file bankruptcy, like I said, personally or corporately. Took care of
Wow.
my customers, and over a period of time, took care of most of the people that worked with us by making payment arrangements. But I wanted to stay. I had a job opportunity in Arizona. And I said, if I leave this town with my tail between my legs, not my idea of fun.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to stick it out and work my way out of this mess and take care of the people. Now, they didn't get paid 100 cents on the dollar, but they got paid 80 cents on the dollar, whatever agreements we'd make with especially the small guys. A couple
Yeah.
banks took a couple licks of their own volition because they did some stupid stuff. And I crawled out of that mess and learned that the only thing that matters when the economy goes bad in my business is cash. Lots of cash.
Yeah, because then it becomes 2008 where you get a shopping spree and people
Exactly.
have no idea. So what changed for your framework? Like I'm 29 right now. So like what was that framework change for going forward? Is it like we keep 10% reserves? Do we keep 30%? Like how do you think about that?
Somewhere in that period of time, and I don't can't pinpoint the year anymore, but so I read reading an article about Bill Gates, and Bill Gates thought that his idea of success would be when he had 6 months of a working capital that he could pay all Microsoft's bills if no income came in. I said, well, that seems like he's a pretty bright guy. You know,
Yeah,
I'll
that's a
follow
good starting
that.
point.
Yeah, it's a good starting point. So that was my goal coming out of that mess. And I lived by that goal. And then in 2004, late 2004, 2000, and early 2005, the craziness, I call it the craziness, okay? Because this all businesses create these bubbles. And that was a crazy time for the bubble for our business. People were just offering us stupid amounts of money for land. And I sold. I sold almost a lot of things that I owned and accumulated by then. So I'm 30. How old am I then? I'm 2008. I am 2008. I'm 20, 30, 40. Yeah, I'm 40 years old or 50. No, I'm 50 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 50 years old. And I sell and I've accumulated roughly in about a little over $20 million dollars in after-tax capital. Okay.
Wow.
So now instead of being in $20 million dollars in debt, I'm $20 million dollars plus after tax. So I've made a pretty good switch there that in that 14-year, 15-year period. And to most people, you sit there, I would kid people. I say, well, now I can, go to the Bahamas and drink margaritas the rest of my life. And going, well, I would never do that because I enjoy what I do too much. So I got back into the market, back into the real estate market in 2009. You hit the nail on the head earlier in this podcast where you said in 2008, 2009 is when the real money gets made when things are really bad, but you got to have the money to take advantage of those opportunities. So we scaled that opportunity and bought a lot of real estate between 2009 and 2012. And that is the
So
turn.
during so
Go
during
ahead.
2004 to 2005,
I sold.
that's when you
I sold
sold.
because
And
it was the market was stupid. The money made no sense. The stuff I was selling,
yes.
I thought was worth $10. They were paying me 40 for it.
So at that point, so then for those four, you literally waited 4 years to see an
No, I stayed.
opportunity.
Well, I had to scale the business back down because I still had inventory and stuff. I waited. Yes, the answer is I waited for four
That's a
years.
lot of the reason I want people to
I have
understand that is
patience.
because that's a lot of patience and people want to it's instant gratification at this point. They're like, I need to get the result today or I'm quitting. And it's like you're
No,
seeing it
no, no.
takes so much time to prepare yourself for these
And
kind
you
of
have to have
things.
control. You have to have it's the word called discipline. You have to be very disciplined and not jump into the thing and say, okay, well, that makes still don't it doesn't make sense. Like it is right now. Market's a little difficult. I know things are difficult because people ask me to borrow money. When people ask me to borrow money, then I know that things are difficult, okay? Because they're not getting traditional loans from traditional banks and they're coming to me. So, but it hasn't the real estate has not collapsed like it did in 2008, 9, and 10 because people are not over leveraged like they were then, and banks were not in the business like they're not in the business today like they were then. So, and bank failures didn't occur like it did during the Great Recession, and I don't anticipate that will happen in real estate in Sarasota County
I
or
don't
Manatee County or anywhere in the
yeah.
country. To be honest with you, there's some softness in the office markets because the office has changed, but JP Morgan just opening up their new $3 billion building in downtown Manhattan. They have confidence, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful building that hopefully someday I will visit. But so so yes, you have to have discipline. Discipline is something that most people have a hard time wrapping their hands around. But
I would completely agree. I do coaching with a lot of people, and a lot of financial issues come down to just not being able to keep control of, hey, we shouldn't overspend here. Hey, we should keep more than we spend. Like people are
yes,
constantly having these challenges. So what financial tips would you give to people listening that are kind of on their growth journey? Because obviously there's a component of like you want to risk more when you're younger because you try to capture more return, but at the same time you want to be it's an interesting dynamic.
well, one of the things that I've seen young people, I've always been a saver my whole life.
Yes.
Even when I got in trouble on $20 million, my mentality was always save money. Um, so I, I, people that finance cars, you shouldn't finance things long term that are depreciating assets and that will not make you money. I mean, I happen to be a car guy, so I love nice cars and I have a bunch of them. Okay, but only because I can write a check for them. Okay, and I
It's
realize
complete.
I'll enjoy them and they'll be worth a lot less than I paid for them, but it's okay because I gave myself the pleasure of enjoying the car. But when I was a young man, your age and younger, I would buy, nice used cars and I'd pay them off in 12 or 18 months because you can't make any money on a car 99% of the time. So my part of my advice to people who are listening, who care to listen, is that only borrow money if it could make you money. If what you're borrowing the money to do has a distinct possibility of making you more money than what you borrowed and the cost of borrowing that money and all of the things that are pertinent to borrowing money. Otherwise, don't borrow money. Okay. Be
I mean,
disciplined enough to save your money and then buy what the hell you want when you have the money and not give the
absolutely.
bank 6, 8, 10% interest. It's nuts.
The amount of people who literally could change their life drastically by lowering their car payment or just getting a random car that they're like, hey, I don't love it, but I can afford it. And then just lowering the house pay because their fixed expenses are so high. It's such a challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah, another thing that I try to tell young people is I said, look, and then this week, well, I don't have enough money to save. That's not true. You always have money. I'll give you a prime example. I won't mention any names. So I have a friend that lives in Michigan and she's struggling. God bless her. This is a few years back. And she's struggling and she can't make ends meet. And I'm trying to giving her some advice. I said, look, um, and then she tells me she's having, she stops at Starbucks every day. Well, she starts at Starbucks every day and spends $6, 6 days, 6 or 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month. I'm going, that's real money. I mean, that's that's real money. You can pay a lot. You can pay your half your rent with that much money, or a quarter of your rent, whatever it was, and you can make the coffee at home and do it for 10 cents on the dollar what you're paying at Starbucks. So people lose track of that, and then people that buy it now in more modern social, the social media stuff that people do, where they have these apps that are getting paid $7.99 a month, $8 a month for this. I can tell you there isn't an app that Carlos Proof pays for. If it ain't free, I ain't getting it. And I can afford any app I want. Okay. But
Yeah.
the mindset, the $7.99 a month adds up. Okay. The Frappuccino or cappuccino or latte that you're getting in the Starbucks adds up. Take the money and save your money until you can accumulate some money so you can invest that money. You can never make enough money unless your money is working for you, ever.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I have a client of mine where he was making good money in his job and then he started to realize he's like, wait, I made more in investments. And I'm like, and he's like, I'm like, you have a side business, you have your investments. And people don't realize that shift because they always think I have to work for my money. When in reality, if you have enough capital, you can always start creating more and more money. And you don't always have to work the conventional way of, I need a paycheck or I need this.
A simple book that everybody should read is Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's just a simple book. I mean, it's one of many, but I'm not a big guy. I'm not a big person on reading a bunch of self-help books. It's just not
Yeah.
my, it's not how I've gotten here. Okay. I don't have anything against them, but that's one in particular. That's the one book that I read because it was so simple. I read it after I knew everything that was in the book. There wasn't anything new to me, but I read it because I can't remember somebody told me to read it 25, 30 years ago. But I said, this is a good book for a beginner to understand how a person, any person can become financially well off and independent on their own.
Uh, Absolutely. And do you believe that's possible today for Americans?
I do. I absolutely do. I grew up in a three-bedroom converted garage with a hot two top the heat whatever they call those burners and a bathroom that I shared with my my brother, my sister, my two cousins and me, five kids, my grandmother, my aunt, and my mother. So eight of us in a converted three-car garage for two
Oh
years
my
in my life.
God.
Okay, so I know that this country, if you work hard and aren't afraid to work hard and you're dependable and you do what you say, there's opportunities out there for people who are not afraid of work and are at least decent human beings and do what they say and don't try to make up answers they don't know the answers to. The other thing is never somebody asks you a question. If you don't know the answer, just be big enough to say, I don't know. I'll go find out for you. Okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely, because there's so many people who think they have to have this facade and think they have to prove to everyone that they know everything. And the truth is, most of us don't know a whole lot. Like we know a lot about a little things, but it's hard to do that for a lot of people. So with my podcast guests, I've been doing this and it's been received very well. So I have five pillars with Edwards Consulting. And the first one is mental health. So, what's your mental health like today, Carlos? The reason I'm asking is because if it's regardless of the score, I just want to know why. Just because it gives everyone on that's listening here an insight into like, wow, Carlos is 67, he's financially independent, and he has a good, I'm assuming a good mental health, but like, why does he have a good one? Yeah,
Well, your mental health, I've always had good mental health. Some of it more stressful moments in my life than others. At this point in my life, my biggest challenge is where am I going on vacation next? I mean, I tell people, I said, people, every once in a while, I'll say something. I said, look, anybody who complains about my life is an idiot. And I've been called a lot of things, but an idiot is not one of them. Okay. I'm just at a point where I do what I like. I'm a person who am not artistic, but I love the creative process. So, for example, we're going to be building an airplane hangar at the airport, and and I wanted something specific. The building where people are coming to wait to get on their plane to go somewhere. I
yeah.
wanted it to be distinctive. I wanted it to be elegant. So the first time, the first drawing they sent me, I'm going, this doesn't do anything for me. This is I can't tell you what I want, but I can tell you that I want a little bit of this, and I want a porte cochere. So when people are driving up with their cars and it's storming in the rainy months in the summer, they're not getting wet. So lo and behold, the guy sends me this beautiful thing. I go, he nailed it. He nailed the design. It's cool. It's elegant. I know when things are right. I can't come up with the idea. I can direct people until I get something that I know I like. Okay, but I can't create it myself. But I come to work. Work is not the word we should use. I come to have fun every day. Now, some days I play
Yeah.
the game and I lose. Okay. But some days I win, and some days you get on base, and some days you don't. That's another old thing that I've said for years. I said I get up every morning to get to first base. I don't get up in the morning to hit home runs because
I
if
love
you're in
that.
the game long enough, the home runs will come. The guy
I
that gets up in the morning to get the home run is the guy who never gets around the bases.
I love that. I love that. I think it's amazing. Now, your physical health on a 1 to 10, how do you feel about your physical health?
I'm about a nine. I'm about 10 pounds heavier than I should be. I'm 174 pounds and I should be 165 or so pounds. But I'm in better shape than I was 10 years ago. I take really good care of myself because I have young children and I want to make sure I'm around here to see them become, productive young adults.
What do you do for your physical health? I love that you have a
Uh,
good why for your physical health because a lot of people don't have that why. So that why is very
oh,
powerful.
it's very important. I work out 6 days a week, 2 days with a personal trainer and 4 days on my own. I have the convenience that we have. When I built the building I'm in, it's our offices. There's a gym in the building.
Oh,
So I just go
nice.
downstairs and go to the gym and meet the personal trainer there. And then I'm also fortunate that I have a gym at my house. So,
So that just for everyone listening, that creates ease of access. So the restriction isn't as hard as I got to go drive 25 minutes. So if you're not going to the gym, it might be because it's really hard to get to. If you make it as easy as possible, you'll do it more frequently.
but see, now the opposite of that is my wife, who does this thing called Tracy Anderson, and she's been doing it for, I don't know, 7 years now, since 2018. And she can take a and do her exercise anywhere in the world. She doesn't need anything. She, I mean, and believe me, my wife is a fanatic about this stuff, and she's really good at it. I'm happy for her. I'm going, "Oh, look, you stayed in shape is a good thing for me." No argument there.
That's awesome. No, but it's good to be empowered by the physical fitness because it's so important for us. And
Oh
then
yeah,
one that I know that's yeah, you
gives
go.
you energy. It gives you energy.
It really does. One of the big ones for you, I know, is like community service and philanthropy. A lot, the reason I do it is because I think it's a really important pillar, and a lot of people just don't know how to get involved. They don't understand.
Look, this is the way I look at it. If you are born in the United States of America, you have won the lottery. Now, what you do with the money is your business. Either you take the money and you multiply that money, or you don't. But you have won the lottery the day you were born in the United States of America. And that's how I feel every day of my life. Okay. So I take that and with that mindset is how I live my life. Because there's people, many people, as we know, want to come to this country and don't have that privilege.
Oh,
Um,
oh, I literally got a bar. I was in where Florence, got a haircut, and they're like, "Oh, you're from the U.S." And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, your barber." That's his dream. His dream is to go to the US. But they're like, it's so hard, so challenging, so all these things. And we have so many Americans who just take it for granted. Like
Oh
they just
my
don't even
goodness,
realize.
it's just bizarre. And I'm born in America. My parents, of course, were from Cuba, and my sister and brother were actually born in Havana. But those people that do not recognize what this country is, God bless them, they haven't been exposed. It's not their fault. I don't, it's just if they saw what I've seen in my travels in my lifetime and the conditions and some of the opportunities that don't exist anywhere else in the world but the United States, they would look at it. They would never be happy at seeing an American flag burn. Never.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, you're spot on. It's funny because most Americans never travel more than like 20 miles outside of their home. Like if you look at the statistics, it's pretty crazy. A lot of them don't have passports, but you're absolutely right. The more you travel, the more you realize like, what we got it pretty good. Like regardless of who's running office, regardless of what's going
Yeah.
on, the Constitution is really what guided it to be this incredible country.
Absolutely. I mean, the things that we say about some people say about our president or other politicians in this country, and nothing happens to them. Well, you can't say that in Russia. You can't say that in China. Because you're not going to be around very long. Okay.
Even the top people, yeah. I mean, you look at the top people; they just disappear in China. Like, what is
Yeah.
going on?
Oh, yeah, what happened to that general? Well, he just disappeared. You know.
The guy who ran Alibaba, like that is one of the top companies in the world, and he went away for a little bit.
Well,
um,
yeah, Jack Ma.
yeah, exactly. And
Jack
then,
Ma, who created a huge business and created a lot of opportunity and made a lot of Chinese very, very, very wealthy. And when he went to do his bank financing unit, they said, "No, we don't think we want you in the banking business." Basically, is what happened to him. It's crazy.
it's insane. I mean, you do something like that and help so many people. and they just take it away from you.
Yeah.
Relationships. How do you think about relationships? And do you have any tips?
Relationships, you know, I stopped using, not that I ever used it much, but people say I'm self-made, But the reality is that most people, even the Bill Gates of the world, the Elon Musk, and yes, their drive and their energy has made them by far, no question. But along the way, there's always people that help you or mentor you for because you either did something right, they had confidence in you, but there's very rare to have a really truly, there might be, but that I'm not aware of really a self-made person. We are all a product of a bunch of people along our lives that helped us at certain particular turns that we had to make that got us to where we are. And obviously,
I
some
can,
people just do better than others, but it's any one of people that you call financially successful has had mentors or people along the way that gave them opportunities that they turned into bigger opportunities.
yeah, absolutely. And people don't realize that it's the mentorship, it's the business partners, it's the customers who are purchasing the product. Like it all happens. Like you have to have relationships there, and no one does it on their own.
Yeah.
And then the last one, spirituality. How do you feel about spirituality?
Well, as a person who was raised Catholic and has not been the most spiritual person in the world his whole life, I have grown spiritually considerably over the last 15 years.
Really?
I met my wife. We went on our first date um, about 18 years ago, and she she's a tremendous lady. And at the end of the day, I converted to baptism, uh, to Baptist, excuse me, uh, and it's an important aspect of our life. We don't I don't wear it on my shoulder,
Yeah, of course.
on my arm, because I think everybody should have a right to their own feelings about spirituality. But I think if you believe in something bigger than yourself or bigger than all of us, it's a, it makes for a better world. Okay. It gives you something to know that there is a being out there that has got all of us in his hands in one way or another.
Absolutely. And knowing that we're all connected. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Knowing that we're all unified, and it doesn't really matter about the religion or any of that, but
It
it's this
doesn't.
idea that we're all together. Um, Carlos, you're incredible.
I don't know about that, but I'm just an old white-haired guy that likes to work.
Well, I mean, you've shared a lot of knowledge. Is there any tips that you would give to someone who's beginning on their journey?
I think if you're really beginning on your journey, is the simple, most important thing is to accumulate some capital that you can invest. And you've got to look at you, sit down like when I did when I went broke in 1992, 93, and I sat down in bed and didn't want to get out of bed. And I had a legal pad and I started writing down all the money I spent. And I realized I was spending money on a bunch of stupid stuff that wasn't necessary. And I could live significantly, well below what I was spending. But I had to cut out all of the little extras that add up that you just take for granted. And you have to take that money and stick it into a savings account because the opportunity will come to everyone. And then again, doesn't mean that the opportunity comes and you invest and you make it. Sometimes you'll fail. I've lost many, many millions of dollars in my life. Many millions lost, gone. But another thing I can give you advice, you and anybody that listens to this thing is once you lose money, you put it in the rearview mirror. Don't think about it. Figure out what you learned from it and go forward. Do not for 1 minute take a step back. Never, never step back. If you lost the money, don't fret about it. Don't agonize over it. It's gone. Go figure out how to get back on your feet and do it all over again.
I love that. I love that. Carlos, where can people learn more about you, learn more about your company?
Well, I don't do any of this. You're the only social media I've ever done in my life.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's
You are the only thing
incredible.
I've ever done in my life because you were so diligent about calling me. I said,
I
owe
did
this
follow
guy.
up.
I owe this poor guy something. But I'm not a social media. I don't do Instagram. I don't do Facebook. I don't do none of that stuff. Not that I think there's anything wrong with it. I just am a very relatively private person. And now I've given you 35 minutes of my private life.
Well, if you guys like Carlos and you want to support Carlos in any way, just pass on the lessons that he's given to us today. I think this is absolutely amazing. Thank you, Carlos, for the time.
Thank you. Enjoy your trip and safe travels.